God has shown my mom great mercy. Over the years, she has been having this intense pain. For the past 3 years, it became worse. So she has been taking pain medication to manage the pain. At a point, she started walking one-sided. She was tilting one side. So we had to take her to the hospital this year, just this August. We told her, just go, let us even know what the problem is. Getting to the hospital, after examining her, the doctor said there is a misalignment on her spine, that the spine from her back to her hip is meant to be curved, but it is straight. That's why she cannot bend as she doesn't bend down. If she bends, she can't stand. The pain is excruciating. So after she came back, she called me and she told me everything the doctor told her. That the doctor said, come back in 2 weeks' time. Let's just follow up. Let's know how the pain is building, because there is nothing they can do about it. It's just to be taking pain medication for the rest of her life. When she called me, and after telling me, I told her, no problem, don't worry. I belong to the altar of fire. So nothing is, I was not even scared. Then I remember that testimony. Scoliosis, yes. So I said, if God can straighten a curved bone, then he can curve a straightened bone. 2 days. I just told God, as they have said it, that is how I'm going to present it. Just tell Papa what to say about this word. Then, 2 days after I mentioned that, we were just praying on Nsppd. I was just praying. Then Papa said, there is someone here. There is a misalignment between your spine and your hip.
There's a misalignment between your spine and your hip. Between your spine and your hip. I don't know who this is for. If you are the one, put it on the live stream right now. I announce, let it be reversed.
I took this clip like this. I sent it to my mom. She believed it and she prayed with it. The next day she called me. She was like, Blessing, did you tell your pastor anything? Just talk to me. I said, Mom, you don't understand. I said, I did not tell him. My pastor doesn't know me. We just know where to connect. That was everybody in my family said. Altar of fire, my elder sister, everybody, Nsppd link send. I'm now forwarding it every day to everybody. My mom now said she can bend though, she can stand, she can bend, she can stand, she can. All the things she could not do, she was doing them. Hey! Oh. That is my mom. She has suffered this pain for over 20 years. But just one word from Papa, everything turned around. Pain medication, nothing again. That is how God changed our story. What God cannot do!
There are too many testimonies, but I know they'll beat me up, so I'm just going to give a few. The first one is around my daughter. During the pandemic, we were home, locked down. You guys know how it was in the US. And so she was not doing well psychologically because, we're all on lockdown. And so I was very worried about her one day, and I sent a prayer request to pray with Pastor Jerry. At that time, it had become my practice. Anything bothering me, I'll just go and report to Pastor Jerry on email. And then my daughter started joining Nsppd with me. She would do it in her room. In my house, when it's time for Nsppd, everybody is in their corner, kabashing. So she started joining Nsppd, and she had a hook in her neck. She couldn't turn her neck. She was in so much pain. And so one day during Nsppd, she just heard pop, 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 and the neck loosened itself. And that was her own evangelism. I didn't have to preach to my daughter. Right now, she's watching because she has never missed any Nsppd, any day. She doesn't miss services. She's online on every day watching. And from there, she became very serious with her academics, started doing well. In 1 year, she was able to clear all her classes, something that should have taken her like 2 years. She was able to graduate at 19. She got an internship working with senators to change legislation. And based on that, she was able to get an award at her graduation, where she even gave a speech at her graduation, which was a really big deal. And so I'm really grateful for God. And then on top of all that, she wrote the LSAT for the first time. She didn't study. I'm like, go write the LSAT. You're going to law school. She wrote it the first time and got admitted to one of the best law schools in the US. So I just want to give God praise for that testimony. And then the next testimony is around my husband. Okay, so we built a house in the village. You guys know how village people act. As soon as we dedicated that house, something started happening. My husband would leave the house and get lost. 7 times he left the house like that. He would come, I would just get a call from cops. Somebody found my husband wandering somewhere. It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand what was going on. And then one day when I was sleeping in the midst of all this turmoil, I was watching the service actually on a Sunday because we always join to watch. And then while I was watching the service, I slept off. And then I had an encounter. Papa was telling me, Pastor Jerry was telling me in that dream, this will be the last time it happens. And after this time, it will be a new story for you. Because by then, all I was busy doing was looking for my husband one place to the other. It was a real turmoil. And when I woke up from that dream, I now went downstairs. Indeed, my husband was again lost. I now found him. And that was the very last time that happened. And then the next testimony that I had was, we live up north in the U.S., and I was looking to move to Houston because I wanted to be able to attend Streams of Joy in person since they have one in Houston. So I started dreaming of buying a house in Houston and moving. So I found a house that I really liked, but honestly, my credentials were not good to be able to buy that house. But I still tried. I said, let's move in faith and let's see whether it will happen. After we did everything on a Friday, I had found out that this was not going to happen. You know, my loan officer, the mortgage officer had told me all these issues were going on, so it was not going to happen. Then I joined service on Sunday. That was during our 21-day prayer and fasting. And then Papa declared, he said, 32 hours from now.
Somebody hear me as I hear the Lord. The Lord said, in 32 hours, what you have waited on, at the sound of your amen, it will become your evidence. Receive it right now.
And I grabbed that word and I ran with it. And I did the math, I calculated. 32 hours from that moment was 8 a.m. U.S. time. And I was waiting by my phone. At 8 a.m., my mortgage officer called me and said, I have waived all conditions for you. We are closing today. And that is how I was able to buy my house and move with my family to the church in Houston. And as soon as I got to the church in Houston, I plugged into the church, got involved with house fellowship. And then my house fellowship leader turns to be a crazy Nsppd as well. And she had just come back from Nigeria. She helped me not just buy that house. I've now bought another house, and I have 2 more houses I'm closing on this week. And then my very last testimony. So when I first joined Streams of Joy, every time I join, I hear women in your 30s, 40s, and 50s carry your baby.
Why am I hearing that women in their 50s are carrying their babies? Why am I? It's a kairos moment. It's a kairos moment. We spread it to women in their 40s. Carry your babies. We spread it to women in their 30s. Carry your babies. There is nothing hard for the Lord to do. Carry your evidence.
And I'm like, what's going on here? So I kept listening, and I was like, I should try again. Before now, I remember I talked about my daughter who graduated. By that time, my first child was 19. My second child was about 7. And between 19 and 7, I really struggled to have that son. In fact, I had him based on word of knowledge and stuff. So for me, it was like a dream to even think about trying to have another kid. But I'm like, you know, God can do it. My area of scarcity can become my area of a surplus. So maybe I should try again. My daughter said, are you crazy? Why are you doing this now? And indeed, I conceived. When I was pregnant, I had my son was breech, and I had a lot of pain. And so one day during this pregnancy, I said, God, please help me. You know, I'm not that young. At this time, I was 49. And so on that day, Pastor, I prayed a prayer. I'm like, God, please help me. I'm in a lot of distress. Can you just deliver me from this? Then Pastor Jerry gave a word. I was watching Nsppd when that happened. Pastor Jerry said, there's a woman here. Your baby is breech. I command that baby right now to turn around.
Allow me to declare this. Let's say your baby is lying breech. I decree and declare, let that baby return back normal. Let that baby return back normal. Right now. Right now.
And I received that word because at that time my son was breech and he was crushing my lungs and everything. The next day when I went for my ultrasound, they now found out that he had spawned and he was no longer breech. He was now cephalic, which is head down. And that day I delivered my babies. And not only did God give me one baby at 50, I had twin babies at 50. The beauty of it is that I was a woman who for 12 years, I cried every time I saw my period because I was trying to have another child. Now I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And when people who know me come to my house, they are like children everywhere. One woman told me, your husband must be very happy. You've poured children on him like a camel. I just want to give God praise to this God that not only gives us what we need, but he gives us a surplus. He takes us from a place of a scarcity to a place of a surplus. What God cannot do does not exist. Thank you, Papa. The Lord bless and increase you.
What God can cannot do does not exist. What God cannot do does not exist. We dey pray, he dey show. Pastor Jerry, on the 17th of June, I was at the gym when I got a call from my neighbor that my son is having a seizure, that I should start rushing home. And I was like, seizure from where to where? I left a boy, hale and hardy. Nothing was wrong with him. And all of a sudden, you are calling me to tell me that my son has a seizure. And I panicked and I rushed home. I saw them coming out from the house with my son. I joined them in the car. And I saw my son. He was still like, he was not himself. I was like, what's going on? I got to the hospital and I didn't understand what the doctors were saying, because at that point, I was not reasoning well. I was like, what happened? What did you say happened? I took my boy home after the whole treatment and all. I took my boy home. And next thing, the seizure started again. And I rushed back to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, the doctor told us take our boy home. We should just observe him and all. When we got home, like 2 hours after the first seizure, he had another one. This one lasted for about 10 minutes. We got to the hospital. We rushed back to the hospital and they were treating him again, Pastor Jerry, for the same thing we just rushed to the hospital for. They were treating him again for it. And he had the third seizure in the space of 6 hours. As soon as they admitted him, immediately the crisis started. This one lasted for close to 20 minutes, Pastor Jerry, that I had to leave at some point. I couldn't watch him. I had to walk out. And while he was in the hospital, I remember trying to play "Oh Lord, Show Me Mercy." But for some reason, I was just like, my own case, God will not remember me, because I feel God remembers some special people, not people like me. They told us to take it from scans and scans. When we were doing MRI, the MRI scan wasn't funny. It was the MRI scan that opened my eye to what I was really dealing with. They had to put him to sleep, but he woke up. So when they put to sleep, it was not up to 5 minutes. He woke up, and the way he was behaving during the MRI, it was really bad. That I told my husband, I can't come here for this MRI scan again. I can't put my son through this. It's not even up to a year when all this started. He was about to celebrate his 1-year birthday when the devil came with all this from nowhere. Looking at the test results, that is very bad. That he has to be on drugs for the rest of his life. That what they are seeing is really bad. June, that day I decided that, okay, let me join. Just maybe Roy will see me. He will hear me, how tired, because I was crying and begging him to listen to me, to hear my cry, to feel my pain. Like, is he sleeping? I need a word from him. I need my son to be healed. Roy saw me. I thought maybe, like, Pastor Jerry would never mention my case. Maybe that thing you put in your ear, I've forgotten the name, this thing you put in your ear, maybe it's a way of people telling you people's cases, or you will read it and they will tell you. I never believed that my own case will be mentioned. The moment you mentioned it, I had this conviction that that was my word. Just a day of joining back, it's like God had waited for me to join back. Just that morning of joining back, 36 minutes into the prayer, you mentioned my case.
The Lord is removing every seizure. The Lord is removing every seizure. The last time you saw it is the last you will ever see it.
And I claimed it immediately. I typed. I said, it is me. Pastor Jerry, seizure never came back again. It never. I was waiting that, okay, let me see if it will show its face. Father, he kept getting better and better. He kept improving. Someone that was dull, he kept improving. He became lively. Someone that was acting like he was acting so dull, but he said saying ABCs, 1, 2, 3, learning. And people were like, this boy is fast, oh, he's bright, he's sharp. And I was like, Roy has done it. Pastor Jerry, I said to my husband, let us go for a repeat scan in the hospital. After 3 months, we went for a repeat scan. The person taking the scan, he said that why are we coming for scan? That we are here to just waste our money. That what we have done, June, and we are just coming again for another scan. That people just want to waste your money. And I told him, I can't waste my money. He said, oh, you're one of those Nsppd people, Abby. What God cannot do does not exist. I said, yes, a proud one. Pastor Jerry, he made a mockery. He made me feel I should doubt what God wants to do in my life and the life of my son. As he was talking, I was looking at him, and at some point, I started telling him that you will be here and I will give my testimony. He said, so you stopped giving him your medication? I said yes. And he was laughing. He said, you're just playing with your boy's life. Better take him to the hospital and go and give him drugs. I don't know I'm damaging his brain. I said, there's nothing wrong with his brain. My son is fine. When he sent the report to me, Pastor Jerry, he used to ask, how will you shout? How will you scream? How will you celebrate a Roy? When you get that testimony, Pastor Jerry, I shouted, I screamed, I cried. When I got my testimony, I cried tears of joy, because what they saw before, they could see no more. They said he had epileptic form activity. They said he spikes, so many bad negative reports. What they saw before, they could see no more. I want to say, the God that you serve is a mighty God. The God of Pastor Jerry Eze is a mighty God. If not for you, my son will still be on medication till this day. If not for your word of confirmation, the day you spoke was the day the seizure stopped. If not for you, only God knows what would have become of my son. May the oil on your head never run dry.
Nsppd, celebrate our God! Celebrate our God! Oh! Celebrate our God! Celebrate our God! Celebrate our God! Somebody give the Lord a loud shout!